What if Gogeta was in the Tournament of Power? How strong would he become and what difference would he make? Well, in this video, we're going to discuss that. Make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. So joining me in this video is someone you've seen on my channel in the past, and his name is...
What's up guys, MJ here, and thank you for having me back on your channel once again, Mike.
So normally we begin these videos by saying who the character in question would need to replace. But fortunately for us in this case, Gogeta doesn't need to replace anyone, because Goku and Vegeta are already going to be on the team. And we're not about to replace the people with the strongest plot power of all. So that being said, we're going to get straight into this example and talk about Gogeta's emergence within this story.
I don't know about you, Mike, and I don't know what your commenters are going to think, so I'm definitely interested in seeing their thoughts on this, but in my own opinion, I would have to believe that Gogeta would emerge after either Goku or Vegeta encountered Jiren, and what I mean by that is Jiren was hyped up as the biggest threat. He was even teased long before the tournament. He was kind of like a cloud that was hovering over Goku and why Goku needed to become stronger. He trained with Whis in the gravity room. He even was offered to have his potential unlocked by the Elder Kai. He knew what was coming, but at the same time though, he never exactly experienced his full power. So I think the martial artist within Goku, or even Vegeta, but more likely Goku, would need to challenge Jiren, much like how he did in the actual Tournament of Power, both in the anime and the manga. He would need to get his ass kicked, and then he would need to understand that Kaioken is not going to work against this guy, and I think that would plant the seeds for whatever Goku and Vegeta need to do in order to combat him in the future.
Yeah, I agree with your points. As much as Goku fusing with Vegeta at the start of the tournament might make things easier as they go along, if not win the whole thing for them, the fact of the matter is that Goku is at his very core a martial artist. And the entire reason he won this tournament in the first place was so that he could fight strong guys and push himself to becoming even more powerful individually. So the idea of him just starting the tournament out by fusing, or doing it at least before he faces Jiren, seems to kind of go against his overall character. So I definitely think that the beginning of the opportunities where this would probably really start to happen would be after he first fights Jiren and unleashes his Ultra Instinct. So probably shortly after Frieza gives Goku his energy, which allows him to continue fighting. So when exactly do you think the perfect opportunity for them to do this would be?
I would actually have to say more or less before the encounter with Kefla. And the reason why I'm bringing Kefla up is because I think Kefla served as a stepping stone for Goku to start understanding what Ultra Instinct was. He got an idea of what it did to his body. He got an idea of the power increase. He got an idea, okay, I need to fix this because I'm not landing as strong of a punch as I did before, but my speed and my reaction time is just off the charts. So I think by that point, Mike, after he fought Kefla and defeated her with UI Omen 2, I think he got it into his head that if there was any way to possibly defeat Jiren would be to master this technique, the technique that Whis has been trying to teach both him and Vegeta. I think that's what was kind of a reality check for him, because if you guys remember, right after he did Omen 1, he did not really know what was happening. He did not even realize he was in a different form. He did not even realize he needed to do this or to do that. So I think the perfect time would be for him to talk to Vegeta right after he gets his energy restored from Frieza, and for him to kind of emphasize to Vegeta the idea that no, if I can't beat this guy, you can't beat him either. And we've kind of seen that before in the past. It's not out of character. He did it in the Cell arc and he did it in the Buu arc. So for him to kind of tell Vegeta, look, hey man, all the training we did, we still need to work together because I could not defeat this guy. I didn't even put a scratch on him. And plus, I'm pretty sure even Vegeta makes note of the fact that he probably wouldn't be able to do anything once he saw Kaioken times 20 get taken out. So I feel like that would probably be the best opportunity, because once the Kefla fight happens, that's when Goku gets it in his head that, yeah, I'm going to need UI to defeat Jiren.
However, another big factor that contributes to the fusion taking place later in the tournament would also be the fact that Goku and Vegeta actually need to figure out how to synchronize their fusion dance before this even happens. As we saw in Dragon Ball Super Broly, when they do fuse into Gogeta, they messed up a couple times along the way, becoming the fat version of Gogeta and then becoming the old version. So it ended up taking at least an hour for them to actually be able to become Gogeta, which of course wouldn't work out here because the tournament to power is 48 minutes long. However, perhaps we can maybe change this up a little bit. We could say that maybe shortly before the tournament, Goku and Vegeta actually trained how to do the fusion, but a lot of times when it comes to these videos, I like to have it all happen on the fly. So I think what might serve the story better is if they just do what they did with Gogeta in Dragon Ball GT, where Goku and Vegeta basically figure out the fusion dance really quickly, and they're able to just immediately jump into the full power Gogeta form. I think that either way, this would push it to being later in the tournament, around the period of time in which we're talking about. So I think all that lines up pretty well. But what we need to talk about next would have to be the power of Gogeta. Specifically his power compared to other fighters such as Jiren, God of Destruction Toppo, Kefla, and, of course, Mastered or Complete Ultra Instinct Goku.
Concerning the power of Gogeta, the first thing that we have to make note of is just how strong their base forms are, because the Saiyans have many different transformations with many different multipliers, so we kind of have to get an understanding of how strong their base is. Now, Mike has talked about Vegito in the past, I've talked about Vegito in the past, and I actually did a video breaking down how much stronger Vegito is in his base form than Goku and Vegeta are in their most powerful forms, and it can go anywhere between 100 to 1,000 to even more than that. It just really depends on how you personally power scale and scale Vegito in the Buu arc. And the reason why I'm using Vegito is because he kind of almost goes hand in hand with Gogeta, at least in modern Dragon Ball. Maybe not back in the day, but now he does. A good example of this is just Dragon Ball Super Broly, where Goku and Vegeta have to pretty much retreat from the fight in their blue forms and are like utterly scared of Broly and just leave him on the battlefield with Frieza. Whereas they come back as Gogeta in their base form and they're actually able to dodge a few of Super Saiyan Broly's blast while trying to escape him and kind of evade him and dodge him and then go into their Super Saiyan forms. So it's kind of safe to say that Gogeta and Vegito in their base forms are more or less relative to that of like Goku and Vegeta in their blue forms. A good example of this is in the manga, where Vegito, right after just fusing, even before taking a Sensu bead, he's able to bounce back one of Murashimasu's blasts, and Murashimasu was like trembling at the idea that, oh man, he blocked that, what is this? Is this a new form? But no, he saw that it was just fusion, so he actually mistaked base Vegito for an entirely different transformation because of how powerful he was. So again, it depends on how you scale, but for the sake of this video, it might just be easy to say they're relative to like their blue forms. And if that's the case, Mike, you're gonna have a base Gogeta on the battlefield that is already stronger than Goku in his blue form. So if we take a Gogeta who is relative to Goku and Vegeta in their blue forms, and he's just that powerful in his base form, Mike, and you put him on the tournament stage, yeah, he's gonna be a threat, because just in his Super Saiyan form, which would be 50 times base, he's already superior to that of the Kaioken that challenged Jiren before.
Another thing we have to mention is the fact that we don't really know just how powerful Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta was compared to Super Saiyan Blue Goku, for instance, because for all we know, Vegeta going into the tournament to power was more powerful than Goku as a Super Saiyan Blue if we disregard Kaioken, because of course there have been periods of time during the Dragon Ball Super series where Vegeta was more powerful. So, you know, if you take Goku as a Super Saiyan Blue and combine him with Vegeta, who is potentially even stronger than him, their base form is definitely going to be more powerful than potentially Goku's Kaioken times 10 or whatever at that point. Although again, it really depends on how you scale fusion, what the multiplier is, so on and so forth. But, you know, when it comes to comparing him to the most powerful fighters, when I did the What If Vegeta Was in the Tournament to Power video, at the time a lot of fans were still trying to process their ideas about who is more powerful, fusion or mastered Ultra Instinct. But really, like, after all the time I've had to think about it, it's just really hard for me to think that Gogeta, the fusion of Goku and Vegeta, who in their base forms would be stronger than Blue, and then you add on to that Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan Blue, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, or even Super Saiyan Blue Evolution, and maybe even Kaioken on top of that, depending upon what time this happens in the tournament. For me, with that massive multiplier, with that massive amount of power. I just would have to think that, full 100%, with all the stuff added on to him, Gogeta would be more powerful than Jiren after he unleashes his PTSD gains, as Harold would probably call it, or, mastered Ultra Instinct Goku. Gogeta to me seems like he'd probably have to be more powerful, and especially if he did this after Vegeta unlocked his evolution and after Goku went Ultra Instinct the second time, that would probably be the most powerful Gogeta yet, even disregarding some of the fatigue stuff, because the whole tournament kind of disregarded stamina and fatigue anyway, so I feel like he'd be without a doubt the most powerful fighter.
It's interesting because in the movie where Gogeta came back in Super and he battled Broly, later in that fight, we see Gogeta just demolishing Broly, right? Even though Broly is tanking the hits, like Gogeta's having a blast. Like we see him smiling, like there's a part where he's like riding that wave and he's just having a fun time, right? Later in that movie, we find out that Broly is at least comparable to Beerus. Again, that's going off of like Goku's own idea of how strong Beerus is, but we get a comparison directly to Beerus, right? Whereas in the Tournament of Power, Jiren is compared to Gods of Destruction, not just one, but Gods of Destruction, just that realm of power he's in. So it would be interesting to kind of put Gogeta up against Jiren, because I don't know exactly what you think, but I'm of the believer that Jiren is stronger than Broly, at least in his, I guess what you would say, PTSD form. Shout out to Harold. So I'm of the belief that Jiren is stronger than Broly, so it would be interesting to see Gogeta go up against that enraged, I'm ready to kill anybody to prove a point Jiren. It would be kind of fun to see that fight take place, which is what makes What If so awesome to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, until we actually see Jiren fighting Broly or some kind of comparison made between the two of them, we're not really gonna know for sure. Not to mention that, we know that Jiren was more powerful than his God Destruction, Belmod. So he's clearly more powerful than some of the Gods of Destruction, which they even reference in the tournament. But does that mean he's automatically as powerful or more powerful than Beerus? That's something we don't really know, because at least when I look at it, for me, the Gods of Destruction are more like a tier that has like a low tier and a high tier. And I would have to say that Beerus is probably high tier, based upon everything we've seen. I mean, there could be some kind of twist we'll find out in the next arc or something. Actually, Beerus is the weakest God of Destruction, and the strongest one is 10 trillion times stronger, some crazy thing like that. But until then, I kind of think that Beerus is probably one of the most powerful, which is kind of backed up by the fight we saw in the manga between the various Gods of Destruction, when Beerus, could have potentially killed a bunch of them if Sidra didn't use his barrier move. So I think that kind of, for me, makes it seem like Beerus is one of the most powerful. Does that mean that Jiren is more powerful than Beerus and every other God of Destruction, and was, to that extent, mastered Ultra Instinct Goku? If so, then maybe there's an argument they're still more powerful than Fusion and Broly, but otherwise, I could definitely see, Fusion and Broly being more powerful just because of how much of a massive boost it would have to be. And it's also right after the tournament, so, Goku and Vegeta would be getting those Zenkai boosts if they still get them at this point, which obviously the manga has a different idea than the anime.
Well, as you and I brought up before, definitely the case with Gogeta, it's way more ambiguous because we just did not see Blue Gogeta at full power, and I mean, there's still a lot of more stuff that he could have done too in that fight. A lot of forms he didn't use, a lot of techniques he didn't use, so definitely way more ambiguous as to who's stronger, whether it's Gogeta or whether it's UI Mastered or PTSD Jiren, as you said, or Enraged Broly, so.
That leads into the outcome of this fight. So, what do you think would happen if we introduce Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta into this battle?
Well, a character trait to make note of is the fact that both Gogeta and Vegeta seem to like fighting strong characters. It's like the Goku and Vegeta thing carried into them. And even though a lot of the cockiness from Vegeta in the Buu arc was more so just to piss off Buu and to get him to absorb him, we kind of saw him still acting cocky in the Zamasu fight in both the anime and the manga. And then of course, Gogeta, we saw him jump straight into the action, smiling, ready to throw down with Broly, and even in GT, ready to throw down and was antagonizing him. So I can definitely see Gogeta right off the bat once he fuses and we throw him onto the stage and goes blue. He's probably gonna go straight for the top guy in this sense, which would be Jiren. And we also know that Jiren is a fan of fighting strong opponents, and the fact of the matter is, once Kefla powered up, he woke up from his meditation. So once he feels the energy of Gogeta, I'm pretty sure he's gonna wake up, he's gonna go check out what's happening, and then once he encounters Gogeta, Gogeta's gonna say put him up, he's gonna want to go straight for the top top guy, and the top guy that Toriyama was pushing was Jiren at that moment, so he's gonna go for Jiren. And that's a lot of power, dog. Like, the last time Jiren fought was Kaioken Goku, so having like Blue Gogeta just rush him, dog, that's gonna be very interesting. So I definitely think he can weaken him, and if not straight up beat him, then at least beat him down to the point to where he's weakened enough to where if the fusion runs out, a similar thing would play out, you know, where it's some of the fighters that are left over from Universe 7 helping Goku and Vegeta defeat him as he's weakened. But I would say just right off the bat, dog, he would probably beat him, because it's for sure for us to say, would he allow him to just hit into that PTSD, I guess, type of form, because it's like, I can see Gogeta just rushing him the way he did Broly, dude. And if he can't keep up, then get out of the kitchen, you know? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know if Gogeta's gonna give him that moment to like remember his past and to power up. And even before then, a good point to bring up is if they fuse at that particular moment, Mike, and they battle Jiren, that means Jiren never has that conversation with 17, so he's not really thinking about his past as much in this version. So it's like he might just get bum rushed, bro, like legit, you know? So
that's true. I mean, I feel like when Jiren actually went full power before he tapped into his PTSD gains, it was when he like fires that blast at Goku right before he taps into the mastered Ultra Instinct, when he's like, wow, you've built up so much energy, I'll match that. For me, that's when he goes full power. And, you know, when he's fighting against Ultra Instinct after that and he's getting wrecked, he's using his full power. But his power that he uses afterward is kind of like what happens with Gohan when he gets like a rage boost and taps into his full hidden potential. You know, Jiren used his past experience to do that. So there's a great chance, as you're saying, that that wouldn't even become a possibility and Jiren would just be eliminated. And, you know, the thing is, at that point, their power would be so ridiculously high that pretty much everyone else in the ring would probably be eliminated too, just from like the shockwaves of their punches and blasts.
Similar to when Kale powered up earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like either way, this is going to be the ultimate climactic fight. And if Gogeta doesn't win somehow, I think that we're going to see what happened in episode 131, where everyone just kind of forces Jiren out. And depending upon how tired they are after the fusion, which might not be at all, it might be even easier for them to eliminate him. And so that leads into the wish, because in this case, there's a great chance that Android 17 isn't the one who's going to remain behind as the winner. So with that being the case, do you think that Gogeta or someone else is going to make the wish? And if so, what do you think they're going to wish for?
If Gogeta makes the wish, I could potentially see them making the same exact wish that 17 would have made in the actual version of this tournament, where he brings back the other universes. And a reasoning for that would be, we know prior that Vegeta wanted to bring back Universe 6 and to save Kaba, so I have no issues in my mind whatsoever that Gogeta wouldn't come to a similar conclusion, and not just wishing back Universe 6, but also wishing back the rest of the universes. And I believe you had a point to make about 17 and Goku.
Yeah, so what we ended up seeing at the end when Android 17 made his wish is that it seemed like his wish was supposed to echo what he believed Goku to wish for. And the reason why I say that is because right at the end, when 17 is asked about what wish he's going to make, he has a moment of reflection and contemplation. And during that moment, he looks over at Goku, and there's this kind of silent realization that goes through him that leads to him making his wish, which is to bring back all the universes that are erased. And I think the reason that he looks at Goku before this is kind of the way of narratively telling us that this is what Goku would wish for. This is what Goku would do in this situation, which is also backed up by Android 18 after the fact, saying that you and Goku are so similar, you're becoming more like him every day. So I feel like that's kind of what they were going for here, that if Goku were to win in Android 17's place and make the wish, that's what he'd wish for too. And as a result, because Vegeta promised earlier in the arc that he would wish back Universe 6, then obviously wishing back all of the universes would also accomplish that goal. So I think that in this case, that if Gogeta were the one making the wish, or they defused and Goku made the wish, that he would wish for the same thing that 17 did.
Now, this may sound wacky, but I'm pretty sure someone might bring this up. When it pertains to the wish, if for some case Gohan was never knocked off the stage and he was still a part of the team, due to the fact that he was the team captain, if Gogeta or Goku and Vegeta once defused appoint him to make the wish, he would probably again make a similar wish to 17 and to his father. And I say that because he felt very bad throughout the tournament that every single time he beat a character and they would lose, they would have their universe erased. We saw this in depth with his fight against Obani and him being the single reason to as to why Universe 10 got erased, because he eliminated their best fighter. So I feel like Gohan would probably come across a similar conclusion where he would wish back the other universes as well to make amends to what he did to Obini and his family.
Or Gohan will wish that he unlocked his Super Saiyan Blanco, and it would be with infinite Zenkai rage boosts that never ever end. And he will also wish at the same time that he will become the main character and that Toriyama will never change his mind again.
And the power is so great that it cracks reality, and El Hermano shows up and challenges everybody to a fight.
And then Harold shows up and solos all of them at 2%. But finally, I want to talk about the aftermath here. Basically, what occurs after the Tournament of Power. Because if Gogeta, say, defeats Jiren instead of Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku, or, Goku doesn't have the chance to go Mastered Ultra Instinct, would he inherently be weaker? And also, would Vegeta be weaker? And as a result, would this in any way affect their fights against Broly or Moro? And also, on that same topic, would they even use Fusion 2 fights in a row? Because again, that was their means of defeating Broly.
I can definitely see at one point Goku going to Whis and being like, hey man, whenever I fought Jiren, Frieza said that I went into this weird looking state of being and you guys called it, Ultra Instinct or Megate no Goku. Can you kind of elaborate more on that? And then Whis being like, oh yeah, of course, that was that technique I was telling you guys about. So I could definitely see him at one point going to Whis and trying to learn more about what happened to him, because like we said earlier, due to the fact that he would never have encountered Kefla in that state and he didn't go into Omen again, he wouldn't really have that much knowledge behind what's happening to his body. So he would probably go to Whis or to Beerus for that, and he could possibly train to try and unlock it. As far as them being weaker, would you say Vegeta would be weaker overall because of evolution, or do you think that at some point he would train just as hard to keep up with Goku? I would assume he would still be training just as hard, but it's like, would he have had that moment of him breaking his limits in our little what if here? That's the question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I'm not sure that Vegeta would ever need to unlock evolution unless he and Goku fuse after that point, which again would probably produce the most powerful Gogeta. Now, if they did, everything would probably be more or less the same. Goku probably wouldn't be as strong because he didn't get the final unlock of Mastered Ultra Instinct, which he can't use after the fact, but it's kind of like Gohan, where when he taps into his full potential, he retains that power in his lower forms after it. It's not just Super Saiyan 2. So the thing is that I could see them being weaker, but ultimately in terms of their characters, they're probably going to train even harder considering that they couldn't get the job done on their own. So I could see Vegeta maybe unleashing his Super Saiyan Blue evolution or, the manga equivalent through training, kind of like how he did with complete Super Saiyan Blue before he fought Beerus before the tournament.
Right, and then Goku would probably be training with Whis to try and learn more about Ultra Instinct, to at least some extent that he could teach it. So yeah, I think even though you're right, they could potentially be weaker, they'd be heading in the same route as they would anyways, whether they unlocked it earlier or not in the tournament. Whether they use this as a clutch, I guess, 2 fights in a row, I don't know. That's kind of tough. I mean, we know that Goku at heart is a martial artist, but at the same time though, it's not like he's contemplated going fusion before. I mean, isn't that one of the first things he thought about when Beerus fought him? So he would have used fusion like right after the Boo fight to fight Beerus, but he thought it wouldn't work. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's possible. I could see it happening, them using fusion 2 fights in a row. It would probably piss off Vegeta, but I could see it happening.
Yeah, I think Vegeta would just suck it up because at this point, he's not as stupid as he was in the past, where he's like, I'd rather everyone die in the universe than ever fuse with you, Goku. But nowadays, it's like, whatever. I'll put on a little bit of an act and make it seem like I don't want to, but then I will. So, if they had to, which they definitely would have to, unless Goku goes Master Ultra Instinct and somehow can just like annihilate Broly, which I'm not even sure he'd be able to at that point. The thing is that I feel like fusion, if it's their only option, they're gonna do it. And it might not be at the exact same level as Gogeta was at the time, but considering just how hard he beat Broly in that movie, I think that they would still win. And, Moro, it doesn't matter how powerful they are because he just drains their energy anyway. So, I feel like it'd probably turn out the exact same way there. So this has been What If Gogeta Was in the Tournament of Power? Let us know your own thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure to check out MJTV in the end screen in the description. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.